Hey guys, there was a little problem with chapter 10, 11, 12, so I am going to reread that for you right now. Here we go. Missing connections. Mom's perfectly average station wagon felt decidedly less average that evening when she collected Bat from Israel's home. So how was it? Mom asked, pulling her car into reverse to back down the driveway. Mom, said Bat, have you ever thought about getting a truck? A truck, Mom said. She shifted into drive and stepped on the gas. Yes, Bat said, a big one. Actually, Mom said, the first car I bought when I was 18 years old was a truck. Really? Was it like Tom's truck? Tom? Mom asked, glancing over at Bat. Israel's dad, said Bat. I didn't realize you were on first-name basis. That's no big deal, Bat said. Tom's cool. Mom laughed. Careful, or you might make me jealous. You never call me cool. Anyway, she said, did you have a good time with Israel? Mm-hmm. Then when he realized he hadn't asked about Thor. Oh, is Thor okay? Did you remember to give him his 4 o'clock feeding? Of course I did, Mom said, and then she flicked her turn signal on and made a right onto their street. Plum Lane. Thor is great. He's in the back. You put Thor in the trunk? Bat's voice went high and squeaky with indignation. Yes, he's fine, Mom said, and she pulled into the driveway, parked the car, and turned the key. Bat unlatched the seatbelt, threw open his car door, and ran out to the back of the car. He clicked open the rear door and pushed it up. Oof, he said. There was Thor's travel case, a second-hand kennel. But there was something else back there, too. A plastic gate, a fence, or something. It's a doggy pen, Mom said. Someone donated it to the clinic today, and I thought we could use it for Thor. What do you think? Want to help me set it up? This pen, Bat thought, was even cooler than Tom's truck. Then they got to the sections of the pen, 4 plastic sides as it turned out, to form a square into the house. Mom tried to set 2 pieces she was carrying down in the living room, but Bat carried the 2 sections all the way down the hallway into his bedroom where he intended to build it. Then he immediately started trying to figure out how they connected together. We can do it later, after dinner and bath time. I want to do it now, Bat said, in his concentration on hooking the pieces together. He could see, though, that something was missing. The 2 plastic panels just wouldn't latch together. Are there any more parts? I don't think so, Mom said. And then she came into Bat's room and she could see what the problem was. Oh, there must be a connecting rod that slips into the edges to hold the sections together. I don't know, Bat. Maybe they're at the clinic. I just didn't see them. I have to go back to the clinic. You have to go back to the clinic and find them, Bat said. Not tonight, honey. Can you see that picture? We are all done being out in the world for the day. We have to build the pen for Thor, Bat said, very anxious, not tightened in his chest the way it sometimes did. He knew he should walk away from the problem and take deep, calming breaths, but he didn't want to walk away from the problem and take deep, calming breaths. He wanted to fix the problem. Bat, said Mom, you've had a long day, haven't you? She knelt down beside him and took her hands in his. She squeezed his hands and released her signal to let him know that he was going to try to keep him calm down. If she didn't want help, Bat knew that he could take a step away, but he stayed still. His mom moved her hands to his wrists and squeezed and released, and then she worked her way to his arms, squeezing his forearms and his elbows and his biceps and his shoulders, and working her way back to his hands. Baby, she said, and it was the way that pushed Bat over the edge. He wasn't a baby. He wasn't even anywhere close to being a baby. Thor was a baby. Bat was his caretaker, and right now he wanted to take care of Thor by building a playpen. And if that meant going back to the clinic, even though it was closed for the day, then that's what they should do. Bat didn't understand why Mom couldn't see how important this was and how right he was and just to do what he wanted her to do. Bat, honey, shh, Mom said. And that's when Bat heard the sound he was making. He hadn't even noticed he'd started making that sound, a high-pitched whine that seemed to come out of him when he was most upset, and then when he had reached the end of a rope, as Mom called it. But even though he hated making that noise, it felt good to make it too, just as it felt good to bounce on the soles of his feet. Mom's hands were still squeezing Bat's arms when they put her arms around him, pulling him close. She held him just like that, in a nice tight hug, and Bat also wanted the same time to pull away from her. and never be let go. She held him until he stopped needing to make that high-pitched whining sound, until he stopped needing to bounce on the soles of his feet, until the knot in his chest began to relax and unwind. And then she said very softly, "Come on, Bat, it's time to run your bath." And then Bat let her lend him away from the pen. Chapter 11, Banana Fish. After bath time, Bat pulled on his pajamas and he went to the kitchen where he found Mom and Janie together at the table, having breakfast for dinner, which they sometimes did when they hadn't been time to fix a bigger meal. Janie was having fried eggs. Mom was spooning platefuls of scramble, one for Bat and one for herself. Bat did not like runny eggs. He didn't even like it touch when other people ate runny eggs because he had to be a witness. But Janie liked to dip buttered toast into a little pool of yellow yolk, and that was Bat's sister. So sometimes witnessing such a thing was unavoidable. Then Bat had helped Bat feel calm, still warm from sitting in the streaming water. He drifted to his seat at the table and decided that Janie's disgusting eggs were something he could overlook tonight. "We have a week and a half to memorize our lines," Janie said to Mom. "By next Tuesday, the director wants the rehearsal to run without any scripts." Bat filled forkfuls of scrambled eggs onto his toast. "How do you guys know where to stand and stuff?" "It's called blocking," Janie said enthusiastically. "We have to write it all down in our scripts. And when we come to stage, and which side we come from, and where we go, and when we sit down and stand it up, or whatever." "That sounds like a lot to remember," Bat said. "Oh, it is," said Janie. "But it's all right, and I'm good at it. You probably would be good at that part too, Bat. You're good at remembering things." Bat finished his scrambled eggs and imagined himself on stage, surrounded by other kids, acting out the words of a script. He didn't really know how it all worked. So many things he imagined were fuzzy and vague, but they still made him feel nervous. "I could probably memorize the stuff, but I wouldn't want to be on stage with all those people watching." "I love it," Janie said. "I was born for the spotlight." The bright light shining right on him while rows of people sat and stared, that sounded like some kind of punishment. "There was room in the theater for performers and the audience," Mom said. "A show isn't a show without both. Bat and I will be your audience, won't we, Bat?" Bat nodded. "Yes," he said. "But tonight, what do you two say to a game of Banana Fish?" They both said yes to Banana Fish. It was a game that Janie had made up when Bat was little. Well, Bat had thought she made it up, but when he was older, he found out the game she called Banana Fish was the game almost everyone else called War. The only difference was, instead of saying War, when the two people flipped a matching card, they were supposed to call Banana Fish. You could play 1 or 2 or 3 or even 4 players, which was perfect for their family. Janie shuffled the cards and dealt them in 3 equal stacks, while Bat looked to loaded the dishwasher, and Mom heated up some milk and cocoa from the red saucepan, pouring 3 mugs were just the right temperature. They settled into their companionable silence and began flipping cards over, whoever had the highest card taking all 3. After 4 rounds, the first match turned up. Jamie and Bat each flipped over a 7. "Banana Fish!" they yelled, and then they dealt 3 cards face down. Waited a moment, and then they flipped the 4th card face up. Janie's was a 6. Bat's was a queen. "Banana Fish!" he called again, this time in triumph. "Good one, Bat," Janie said nicely, and then he smiled. "Thanks," he said. And then, even though he thought he knew the answer, he asked, hard to see. He asked, "Janie, why do you call this game Banana Fish?" He liked to hear the story that every time they played. "Because when you were little, it was hard to get you to play new games with me. You liked to do things you already knew how to do. So I begged and I begged for you to let me teach you how to play War. But you always said no. And then one day I asked you if you want to learn how to play a game called Banana Fish, because banana and fish were 2 of your favorite words. Even though I didn't know like banana-flavored yogurt," Bat said happily. "And then you said yes, even though it was the exact same game that you were saying no to playing, only with a different name. It's important to know your audience," Mom said. All 3 of them flipped over another card. Mom's Jack was higher than Janie's 9 and Bat's 4, so she took all 3. Bat didn't remember the day that Janie taught him Banana Fish, but she thought maybe Janie had been pretty smart for getting him to play a game after all. "Since I wanted to play after you named the game Banana Fish, maybe I didn't want to play because it was called War, and that word I don't like." "I agree," Mom said. "And that makes 3, Janie said. "Banana Fish is definitely better than War. Banana Fish are better than War." after being together, cozy in the kitchen, was better than being apart. Chapter 12, Perfect Night. Friday after school, Bat climbed into Dad's little sports car, sliding over behind the seats since Dad was whistling, something Bat liked to do that was sort of amazing to him. No matter how hard he tried, Bat couldn't arrange his lips into the proper whistling position. So how was your week, sport? It was okay. Thursday's after-school visit to Israel's house. When Bat had hoped he would research possible vegetables for their skunk garden project, but instead he spent sitting on the couch watching Israel play his new video game and practically ignored him. And though they had finally gotten the pen built, though Mom had agreed to let Bat keep it in his room, Bat felt terribly irritated about the fact that this was his every other weekend. Even worse, this was his every other weekend without Janie because she had rehearsal tomorrow and a sleepover of the castmate on Saturday. I got a surprise for you, Dad said. Is it that you decided to let Thor spend the weekend with me in your new apartment? No, I got baseball tickets. Bat slumped in his seat, defeated. Baseball tickets? It was like his dad was trying to punish him. There was almost nothing good about baseball game, but Bat could nearly make the game out, listing all the things that they were bad about it. 1, the lines. Lines in the car, lines to get through the entry gate, lines to get to the bathroom, lines to get buy snacks, lines to get into your seat. Bat hated waiting in lines. He hated it so much. 2, crowds. Even though you were waiting in line, you were still surrounded by people. Too many bodies squished together into a small space. The smell of bodies. People said skunks smelled bad. This was not true. It wasn't even true. Skunks only smelled bad when they were sprayed. Some of the people at the baseball game seemed to smell them all the time. The lights. All those bright white fluorescent bulbs flooded the field with their artificial glare, making Bat's eyes feel extra twitchy. And the noise. Oh, the noise. People shouting at the peanut guy. People laughing loud at each other and calling out to their friends. The announcer over the loudspeaker booming out information that seemed to Bat to be unnecessary. The music, the crowds, bursting into cheer when a batter scored a run. Bat loved his dad, he really did. But when his dad made him do something like this, like coming to a baseball game, something that he really didn't want to do, Bat wondered if his dad understood him. Because if his dad really understood him, then he wouldn't want to understand that an event like a baseball game was just about the worst thing that Bat could imagine spending a Saturday night. We've got good seats, sport, Dad said, dragging Bat down the aisle, pushing enthusiastically through the crowd. Excuse us, pardon us, he said. The seats didn't look good to Bat. They were too close to the field, which meant there was a high chance that a stray ball could hit him in the face. What do you think, Dad said, after they were settled into the uncomfortable plastic blue fold-down chairs. Can we go home? Bat said. Don't be silly. They're just taking batting practice. The game isn't even started yet. But Bat didn't want the game to start. He wanted the game to be canceled. But in all the years Dad had been making Bat go to baseball games, only one of them had been canceled, and it was on account of the rain. Bat looked up into the cloudless clear sky. The horizon was melting into pink and orange as the sun slipped away for the night. It was a beautiful, perfect evening. Bat sighed and shook his head. It was going to be a long night. It's too dark. All right, that is it. Stay tuned to see what happens at the game.